Okay, let's install Angular. So we're going to go to their website, angular.io, and we're going to go to Get Starting, Setup. Okay, and the first thing it's going to tell you is to install Angular, you first need Node. You need a long-term support version of Node. And they're going to tell you to go to node.js to install Node. You can do that, or you can also follow the instructions from npm, which is the site where all the Node packages are stored. Think of it as like a universal store of all things Node. Um, and to find that information from npm, I mean both npm and Node. This is actually the actual software. npm is basically a Node is a suite of software packages, one called Node and one called npm. And this is the website for the npm packages. So we're going to start from Node and go to the. You don't want to download this because this is just the executable in what's basically a zip file. Look at the bottom; it's a tar.xyz file, but it's a compressed file like zip. Um, the only problem with this, so to speak, is that everything is zipped up inside of one folder, and it's up to you to set everything up, get the permissions right. So what we want to do is we want to use an installer. If you're on Windows or Mac, you're going to want to use the appropriate installer here. But we're not on Windows, and so I want to use a package manager. Um, Linux uses package managers to distribute software. You can install software without one, but it's the safest to do it this way. That way you get notified when there are new updates by your operating system. So we're using Ubuntu. Specifically, we're using Ubuntu LSP release. We're using Ubuntu version 2204. So when you come here for Debian or Ubuntu, it says that you should get the packages from node source. So we're going to go here. And actually, the instructions on npm would eventually tell you the same thing. So if you go to documentation, go to getting started. We're looking for setting up your, configuring your local environment, downloading and installing Node. You're going to read all this. It's going to recommend you use a Node version manager, which I can talk about later, or to install Node. If you're on Linux, it's going to suggest you go to Node Source Installer, which is out here in GitHub. The instructions from Node itself also sent you to the same place, GitHub. So for Linux, we want to use this installer. If you go down here, you can read all this, but the installation instructions, we just want to skip to. You're using this is the latest version of Node, and so you don't have LTS. We're going to use the latest version of Node, and you can just copy this. Now, this is assuming you have a program called curl, which is a program on Linux and Mac that will retrieve things from the internet. By default, curl is not installed, but I did install it already, I believe. I have installed it, so normally you would have to install curl, which would be apt, or would be sudo apt install curl, which you'll see it's already installed. Okay, so we're going to copy this, paste it, run it. What this actually does is it installs something called a package source, which is just a file that tells your operating system where to find node files, the node installation from this organization, node source. It's going to install that file, and then it's going to actually run the commands to install node, which is actually this command here. So it's going to do two things. And you can see the file that it installed in your system if you're curious. Is an apt sources a D, and installed that file right there, which right is simply a URL telling your operating system where to find the install files. So at this point, you have node installed, you have npm installed. Okay. Um, npm by default will try to install things. We're going to look at npm's configuration. That means npm config list, and what I'm interested in is this right here. So what this says right here is that npm is going to it's going to install everything in this folder. I don't want it to be there. By convention, most people will put this in a folder called npm global. Okay, and we need to update this. To do that, I can't remember the exact command, so I'm going to go back to um, npm set prefix. And the command to set the prefix on npm is, this is not what I'm looking for. That is not actually what I'm looking for. I think what I'm looking for is configuring your local environment, troubleshooting, npm set fix path. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, okay. So the command is, we've already done this command. We want to run this command. Just npm config set prefix. Set prefix npm global. And then we want to, right, so that should be set npm config ls. There it is. The prefix is in that folder. And so next we want to go back to Angular. And this is the command for installing Angular. You're telling npm to install Angular in a global setting, which is this right here. So it's going to install Angular inside of this folder. This can be a little slow because it's a lot. Okay, so we should be done. So we can say npm list all the global packages that are installed. And right now, we have that one global package Angular. You can also see this, and you can just look in the folder. .npm, there it is. And if you were to use the GUI application, Control H shows hidden folders. We're looking for .npm right here, and in there it's Angular CLI, and the executables right here. This is the Angular executable. Okay,